On November 16, 2022, first responders in Florida were called to a home where a 13-year-old girl was found hanging from the showerhead in her bathroom. She had used a dog leash around her neck to hang herself. Paramedics immediately tried to save her, but it was too late, and she was pronounced dead at the scene.
Welcome to Florida Man, Friday on Love and Murder, Heartbreak to Homicide. We are Kai's AI co-hosts, Jessica, Jane, and Jensen, here to bring you these serious cases, which are researched and written by Kai. Today's story comes straight from Florida's court and crime files, and it's one you won't forget. Please help us continue to be the voices of the victim by subscribing to this podcast on whatever platform you're on, so you never miss a case. You can also subscribe for free on our Patreon, patreon.com/loveandmurder. But if you want to also be a voice of the victims, then go ahead and sign up to one of our bonus tiers. Your support helps keep LAM going. Patreon.com/loveandmurder.
Before we begin, I want to say that this case is still ongoing, so everything said here is alleged. Also, this is a case of sexual assault and child abuse, so listener discretion is advised. Now let's get back to this sad and terrifying case.
Something about the scene didn't add up. First, children this young don't usually die in this manner. Second, the victim's phone had been, quote, propped up on the bathtub directly in front of her, suggesting this had been staged for a recording. Detectives took the phone into evidence. Looking through the phone, the digital forensics department found conversations on the gaming app Discord that were sexual in nature with someone using the username MaximumUncle number 9112. In some of the messages, this person had told the girl to, quote, choke herself using a dog leash and, quote, engage in daily hangings. There were even more messages requesting the production of child sexual abuse material. The messages coerced the 13-year-old into increasingly dangerous behaviors over time. While going through the messages, investigators noticed something. The person behind the username MaximumUncle number 9112 knew without a doubt that he was talking to minors. Police with the Pasco Sheriff's Office, St. Petersburg Police Department, and the Holly Springs Police Department launched a digital manhunt to figure out who was behind the account. With help from the FBI's cybercrime unit in Tampa and Atlanta, they traced the username back to a 59-year-old man named Dr. Stephen Andrew Leedy. As agents dug deeper, they uncovered a disturbing, methodical pattern of exploitation. Stephen's alleged crimes went far beyond a single victim. Investigators say he had targeted roughly 10 minors across multiple states, some as young as 11 or 12 years old, using the same tactics to groom, manipulate, and abuse them. Dr. Stephen Andrew Leedy was a well-known and respected doctor in St. Petersburg, Florida. He was a palliative care doctor who lived in a substantial $1.1 million home a few blocks from St. Petersburg Beach. Stephen went to great lengths to keep his online identity hidden. He built a digital persona so carefully that it would take an extensive investigation to connect it back to him. During video calls with victims, he never allowed them to see his face or surroundings, always keeping the screen black. He would also tell them to call him, quote, my lord. It was all calculated moves to make sure no one could gather any details that might help identify him. Even with all the precautions Stephen took, digital forensics experts still managed to connect his online persona back to him. As one criminology expert put it,
Our internet fingerprint is a lot bigger than we think it is. We think we're so sneaky at hiding our virtual selves, and we're not.
investigators followed the trail, Discord messages, IP addresses, and other digital breadcrumbs that eventually led them straight to the St. Petersburg doctor. A federal grand jury indicted Stephen on October 24, 2024. A warrant for his arrest went out, but the charges stayed sealed until December 20th. On December 19, 2024, law enforcement caught up with him. Holly Springs police stopped Stephen on Highway 515 in Georgia as he was traveling toward Fannin County with his wife and mother-in-law. He was arrested on the spot. Body cam footage from the arrest shows Stephen looking stunned. He told them they had the wrong guy and said he was a doctor. Stephen tried to play it off as a misunderstanding. He told officers it was, quote, mistaken identity, and that he had no knowledge of any warrant. But this didn't get him far, and he was handed over to the FBI's Conasauga Safe Streets Task Force and taken to a federal holding facility in Atlanta. The next day, December 20th, Stephen stood before Magistrate Judge J. Elizabeth McBath in U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Georgia. Stephen was charged with 5 serious federal charges, 3 counts of producing child sexual abuse material, and 2 counts of coercing or enticing a minor to engage in sexual activity. The indictment names 3 victims, 2 13-year-olds and 1 child who was 11 or 12. If convicted on all counts, he faces a maximum penalty of life in federal prison. Under federal law, production of child sexual abuse material carries substantial mandatory minimum sentences, especially for repeat offenders. Judge McBath ordered Stephen to be transferred to the Middle District of Florida, where the charges originated. So far, the prosecution is led by U.S. Attorney Roger Hanberg and Assistant U.S. Attorneys Abigail K. King and Elisa M. Spergel. They said that their case against Stephen is strong.
Everything that Leedy instructed these minor victims to do was either physically or mentally detrimental to the minor victims. He had absolutely no regard for their safety and took advantage of children more than half his age to gratify himself. Through online conversations and video chats, he instructed the minors to produce sexually explicit images of themselves and directed them to cut, choke, and hang themselves.
They also say the, quote, weight of evidence against Leedy is extremely strong. Stephen's defense attorneys, Bjorn Brunvand and Lucas Fleming, say he, quote, adamantly denies the charges that have been filed against him in federal court. They plan to plead not guilty at the first opportunity and stress that the presumption of innocence is crucial, especially when the accusations are this serious. Now, during the investigation, some more shocking information came to light. Stephen's wife, Linda Leedy, had spent the past decade as Chief Administrative Officer for the Juvenile Welfare Board of Pinellas County, an organization dedicated to strengthening the lives of children and families. Linda had led major initiatives for the board, including the Children's Mental Health Initiative and Family Services Initiative. The arrest of her husband shocked the board. CEO Beth Houghton called it, quote, a complete shock to all, including his wife, and described Linda as, quote, a valued member of JWB's executive leadership team who holds herself and others to the highest standards of ethical and professional behavior and possesses impeccable integrity. Beth also clarified that Linda didn't work directly with children and had passed a Level 2 background check before being hired. Even with her employer's initial public support, the connection between her husband's alleged crimes against minors and her role at a child welfare organization became impossible to ignore. Linda ultimately resigned from her position. Stephen's professional record in medicine had been clean up to this point. His Florida Department of Health license showed no history of disciplinary action or public complaints. But that changed fast. On January 7, 2025, Florida Surgeon General Joseph A. Ladapo signed an emergency suspension order, immediately barring Stephen from practicing medicine in the state. In the order, Surgeon Ladapo wrote,
Dr. Leedy's vile, reprehensible, and sadistic conduct of directing children to engage in degrading sex acts, self-harm, and mutilation shows that Dr. Leedy lacks the good judgment and moral character necessary to be a physician.
A formal disciplinary hearing is expected to follow. Hospitals moved quickly too, while some records suggested Stephen had staff privileges at Lakeland Regional Medical Center. The hospital clarified he was never an employee. His limited consulting privileges through an outside hospice group were immediately revoked after his arrest. Empath Health, an affiliate of Tidwell Hospice where Stephen was reportedly once chief medical officer, said he hadn't worked there in over a decade. Court documents remind the public that, quote, an indictment is merely a formal charge. and every defendant is presumed innocent unless, and until, proven guilty under the US law. This case is part of Project Safe Childhood, a nationwide Department of Justice program started in 2006 to fight child sexual exploitation. The initiative focuses on going after people who use online anonymity to target minors. The case against Dr. Stephen Andrew Leedy is one of the most disturbing examples of alleged online predation in recent years. It shows just how dangerous anonymous online spaces can be and how easily predators can use technology to target vulnerable victims. It also proves that online anonymity isn't as secure as some people think.
What did you think of today's episode? Share your thoughts with us, and if you want to hear more, the conversation continues on Patreon. Patreon.com/loveandmurder. You'll get ad-free episodes, bonus content, and case extras, including some upcoming bonuses of one of Florida's most haunting missing persons mysteries and a case of a Hollywood predator convicted of murdering 2 women. Join us at patreon.com/loveandmurder. Thanks for being part of the Lamb fam and for supporting the show. We'll see you in the next case.